The legendary British actress Audrey Hepburn once said, "Nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible." Now there's a woman who never tried to tickle herself. When you try to tickle yourself, the cerebellum, your brain's motor control, predicts the sensation, cancelling out the surprise or lack of control that makes tickles tickle. Therefore, it is scientifically proven that tickling yourself is impossible. So, good as Audrey Hepburn was in Roman Holiday, and as cute as this little bit of wordplay is, it is actually drivel. There's a lot of this mindless positivity about if you dare to Google it, mostly written in .16 Garamond with a cloudy border. The singer, Demi Lovato, provides what she believes is a pick-me-up with her message. No matter what you're going through, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. What she neglects to mention is that sometimes it's the delayed 11:08 service from Euston to Birmingham, and you're moments away from being hosed off the walls of the tunnel by the Leighton Buzzard fire service. Still, she's only 27. What would she know? Here's one that's everywhere. Life is not about waiting for the storm to pass, but about learning to dance in the rain. I even saw it on a cushion once at someone's house. I literally sat on it. And I'm going to do that again, figuratively this time. The fact is, bad weather doesn't stop you from practicing your cha-cha-cha indoors, but if you're struck by lightning, you'll be properly cha-cha-cha'd. And you'll never dance again. In any case, and as confirmed by the cushion at the other end of that sofa, patience is a virtue. The cushions contradicted each other. They can't both be right, but they can both be wrong. My point is that things can be interpreted in different ways, that sometimes people hear what they want to hear, and you're not going to find the answers you want on the internet or on a fridge magnet. For a better chance of achieving the happiness you crave, you need to listen to me. That's how I start my talks. You might think it sounds cynical and negative, but it isn't. It's quite the opposite. Let me explain. This is my story. This is what drives me, what makes me me and makes me do what I do. Or more to the point, it makes me not do what I don't do. See, I'm a very different person today than what I used to be. I didn't used to be a man or anything. That's not where this is going. I had an epiphany, but not that kind. I just realised I wasn't who I thought I was. And I don't mean found out I was adopted either. I'm not. I was made in the traditional manner in a bed and breakfast in the Mendips by Bernard and Jean. Some people think it's weird that my parents told me where I was conceived, but it's not as if they described all the events. Well, not the bed part anyway. My dad still talks about the breakfast in minute detail. Apparently, the poached eggs were the best he's ever had. Just the right side of runny with pearlescent whites that shimmered like mother of pearl, whoever she is. The sausage had a disappointingly high rust content, and the brown sauce had a metallic tinge. It had been decanted into a ramekin, so he doesn't know the make, but he knew straight away from the flavour. It was an inferior brand. He's hot on condiments, my dad. Anyway, they're my real mum and dad. They told me, and I believe them. They've got no reason to lie, and I've got some of their attributes to prove it. My mother's wit and determination. My father's ankles. But this is nothing to do with them. This is about me. This is how I became a demotivational speaker. When I was 23, I invented a pair of slippers that ring an ambulance if you fall downstairs. It just came to me in the night. I thought, what if there was a pair of slippers that ring an ambulance if you fall downstairs? No need for the victim to press a panic button. It just happens. That'd save lives. The elderly would feel reassured, and their families would be comforted by the knowledge that Nana wouldn't be lying on the cat at the bottom of the stairs when they went round to visit. Should say, I was working as a product designer at the time. Self-employed. Didn't get a lot of work. I saw myself as an inventor. I made a fairly crude but working prototype of the life-saving phone slippers, using, well, a phone and a pair of slippers. The principle was that on heavy impact, the sort a pensioner might make on landing, the phone would immediately dial 999 and play a voice recording of the faller's address to the operator, triggering the rescue. Unfortunately, on my way to the pitch, a set of golf clubs and a guitar fell off the luggage rack of a Virgin Pendolino and landed on my bag, which meant that by the time I showed the slippers to the manager at John Lewis, they were full of broken plastic, and 2 ambulances had rocked up to my nan's in the middle of Homes Under the Hammer. Obviously, I didn't know that at the time. I'd only used her address as an example, which goes to show it bloody worked. But it wasn't enough to sell the idea. It was like the wee clean all over again. The wee clean was an idea I had for a detergent that you ingested in pill form, so that it got into your system, and every time you went to the toilet, you were simultaneously giving it a wee clean. But no one liked that one either. Except for my parents and their friends, and some of my friends and their friends, and well, enough people to make me think it was worth writing down a meeting Superdrug about. But no one there liked it. They were worried about the health risks, which was, in hindsight, fair enough. Then there was the magnetic bikini, the inflatable lawnmower, the remote control revolving hat stand, chicken and mushroom donuts. I cringe now. I must have looked a right idiot. But I was so cocky. That was my trouble. I was a right big head. Every time I pitched one of my ideas, I thought, this is the one. This is my fortune right here. It's just a matter of time before my genius is recognised. But it was the slippers that did it in the end. That's when it hit me that I was pissing in the wind, which was ironic. You'd have thought it would be when my device to make pissing in the wind easier was laughed out of Wilco's head office. Or when I failed to get onto Dragon's Den. Who's invented something so bad they failed to get onto Dragon's Den? So, I was on the train home, and I was so angry. At myself, at all the people who told me the slippers were a good idea, at the man opposite who thought eating Doritos and a Satsuma on a train was socially acceptable, with Michael Jackson for the lyrics to Earth Song. There was a lot of pent-up anger coming out at this point. And then back at myself again, because really clearly, like all my ideas, the life-saving phone slippers were terrible. And yet people kept egging me on, telling me to go for it. But they weren't objective. They were just people who loved me, people who, let's be honest, were absolutely barking mad. Why had I listened to them? What did they know about it? I know they were trying to support me, but it would have been far better if anyone would have said, come on mate, electric long johns. You're going to make a complete arse of yourself. Yes, I'd have been upset, but would it have been worse than the ritual humiliation I was putting myself through? Suddenly, in a moment of clarity, just north of Milton Keynes, it struck me that there are lots of people who get paid to deal with self-doubt. Life coaches, personal trainers, sports psychologists, people who make a fortune boosting confidence. But who's dealing with the overconfident? Who's treating the cocky and the arrogant? Who's bringing them down a peg or two? We could use some help too. Too much confidence is as damaging as not enough. Charles Bukowski said, "The problem with the world is that the intelligent people are full of doubts, while the stupid ones are full of confidence." And he's right. Not that I would have argued with him anyway, because he'd probably punch me. So that's it really. That's why I do what I do now. I've been a demotivational speaker for 5 years. I don't officially call it that. I'd love to, but no one would book me. I market myself as a wellness consultant, which simultaneously means absolutely nothing and anything I want it to, depending on who's asking. Like a lot of job titles these days, it's just some words. Yes, it's cynical, but then so is calling yourself a digital imagination curator, when all you're really doing is rebranding omelettes or designing an app that shows you what you look like as a hamster. But I think it's justified because it's necessary for me to do my work, which essentially is to demotivate the overmotivated. Or, to put it another way, to piss on people's chips. It's not negative, really. I just want people to be happy, and I'm doing what worked for me. As soon as I took the time to face reality, I started making better decisions. I adjusted my sights and started to achieve. And that made me happy. I want to help other people be happier. I am here for the deluded, the inept, and the chronically overconfident. When I say chronically overconfident, you know the sort I mean. Stars of constructed reality shows, football pundits, that SAS bloke with the beard, men who buy muscle-fit shirts, self-consciously controversial cultural commentators, people who'll say anything for attention. Imagine a world without them and their attitudes. Sadly, I don't get many of those types because, well, they think they're fine. After all, they get paid to be that crap and or unpleasant, so they must be doing something right? But my office is swarming with the deluded and the inept. They come in because they've wound up depressed, because they had such unrealistic expectations to start with. They'd formed such a lofty opinion of their abilities that when they inevitably fail, it hits them hard and they can't cope. Husks they are, dribbling husks, and they come in and blub with self-pity. And when that's over, we wipe up all the snot and set about examining exactly how useless they really are. It's the only way of putting together a new set of goals, ones that are reachable within the boundaries of their competence. I feel sorry for some of them. They're just people who were encouraged in good faith like I was. But others are just suffering from overprivilege. You know the ones, inexplicably pleased with themselves. The sort who've gone through life like a sledgehammer, whose self-confidence got them massively over-promoted in all aspects of it, but now reality has caught up with them. Like that bloke, what's his name? He used to come on telly in the evening saying lots of daft stuff he didn't believe. Matt Hancock. Now, he may look like a rabbit caught in headlights, but somewhere inside him, in spite of all the evidence, he still thinks he's up to it. He must do. Before he goes out to face the cameras, someone, an aide, or maybe just his own, in a monologue is saying, "Go on, Matt, you've got this, you can do this." When what would really help is that voice saying, "Honestly, Matt, you haven't got this. You can't do this. I can barely think of anyone less capable of doing this than you. Resign. Get a job in Halfords. You could stick her up the jump leads. Wouldn't that be nice?" The state of him. He looks like a haunted clothes peg. He looks like a man who's refusing to come to terms with some terrible shock. Like a man who got what he thought he wanted all his life, and it's turned out to be a living nightmare. Like a man punching the air because he's won the star prize on Bullseye, and then they wheel it in, and it's a set of wicker furniture. And he doesn't even have a conservatory, and eBay hasn't been invented yet, so he'll have to shell out for an ad in a local rag if he wants rid of it. And he'll have to deliver it himself because it's so massive, so he'll have to borrow his mate's van, and he'll no doubt put his back out lifting it in, and then the van will break down, or there'll be a prang in it and a big insurance nightmare and loads of paperwork to deal with. And you know what? I wish I never applied for the bloody programme. We should never have gambled, Jill. We'd had a lovely day, should have taken the money and let someone else have a go. He's too far gone, I reckon, Hancock. I think he's beyond repair. They should dismantle him and sell him for parts. Well, you never know. Someone might be building a pillock. A lot of my clients are people like him. They spend their lives saying the words they think people need to hear, when what they're actually doing is saying the words they need to hear, to convince themselves their life isn't one of the saddest ones anyone's ever had. And the more they struggle, the worse it gets. And they wind up saying stupid, insulting things like, "It's great, only 50,000 people have died on their watch." And obviously, I speak at conferences, which means I can shatter the dreams of hundreds of people at a time. They shuffle out of the venue looking crestfallen and head straight to the bar. But in the long run, I'm saving them a fortune in therapy, and possibly the world from more bad politicians and gormless singers. There's too much baseless optimism in the world these days, and it's making people unhappy. I've been there, seen it, done it. It's better to tell people the truth now, even if it's hard to swallow. You wouldn't dream of agreeing with your teenage kid that they'd be brilliant at Ninja Warrior. Just because it's their dream and would make their granddad proud, you'd think, well, you can't possibly win Ninja Warrior because you eat too many curly whirlies and you can't reach the monkey bars. You couldn't do it before Grandad snuffed it. You can't do it now. It's impossible. It takes more than just blind faith. So why would you drive them to an X Factor audition when they sound like Cilla Black being waterboarded? That's building false hope. That's cruel. I'm not saying don't be optimistic. Just remember that the idea that you can be anything is packed full of conditions. Repeatedly saying you can do it doesn't give anyone special powers. Any more than saying, chin up, it'll be fine, is going to reattach your bungee rope to the crane when it's snapped off. That's not pessimism, it's realism. Just be realistic. That's all I'm saying. And don't be a git. And I'm not saying don't have ambitions either. Have them. Push yourself, but just slightly. A bit at a time. See what you're capable of and do it well before moving on. Dr. Martin Luther King said, "If I cannot do great things, I can do small things in a great way." Before adding, "And don't you dare put that on a bloody cushion." Oh, now, if you'll excuse me, my 11 o'clock is due. I've got to put some polythene down. You wouldn't believe how much mucus you get out of a CEO. It's a shame I can't flog it. I'd be a billionaire. There must be a market for a noxious substance that's fresh from a cretin. Who knows, maybe his juices are so toxic they kill all known diseases. Maybe you could flog it, stick it in a vaccine and... Hang on a minute. No. Back in the day, I might have tried to give it a name and sell it like that, but not now. That would be cynical. Only an idiot would fall for that. I mean, you'd have to be desperate. Alexa, get me Matt Hancock's number. Well, it might be a cure.